Welcome back, business crew. It's good to have you here with me again. My name is Peter Solanico. I'm a business mentor and coach. I'm also a business consultant. So if you're looking for assistance or advice about business, well, I'm the man that you should speak to and see. Boy, it's been a hell of a week, and that has had an impact on the podcast, this third part of the Australian Crisis series, the Warning to Australians podcast. Now, I have some good news and bad news. I'll get straight to the bad news. The bad news is that this third part is not going to be the part where I'll be discussing hints and tips and strategies. So look, before you abuse me, before you start screaming at clickbait and so forth, I will tell you the good news, and I'll also tell you the reasons why that has not been the case. Now, the good news is that I reflected on quite a few things over the past week based on feedback which I've been getting and the response that I've gotten, and I'm going to create a much more comprehensive and a better, more detailed podcast about some of the things that I would like to discuss to help you protect yourself and also to improve your position. Now, what has happened? The first thing I would like to say is just to give you a little bit of history about this channel. Look, even though I've had the Business Crew account on YouTube for quite a while, I've only been making movies for a very short period of time. In fact, the first series podcast was the one about the warning to Australian retailers, which occurred, I'm not sure, look, about a month ago now. So look, I'm certainly not experienced. I don't have a big subscription base, and to make it worse, when I did put out the previous podcast about warning to Australians, the first reactions were actually 4 dislikes. So even though some of you might be looking at the first part and might be thinking, wow, there's 39 likes and there's 4 dislikes, why are all these initial comments about why there's so many dislikes? Well, that's because when I did put up the podcast, the first 4 actual reactions were negative. So I'm thinking, oh God, how bad is this? I mean, why can't people see what I'm seeing? And obviously that was very, very demoralizing. That wasn't good too. So that's why that should explain to you why there are a few comments in there talking about the number of dislikes, because in fact it was 0 likes, 4 dislikes. Everybody provided some feedback, didn't like the thing. So that obviously that hurt my feelings a lot. Okay, the second issue, what actually occurred, was the stock market falling. Some of you very cheeky people out there have actually contacted me, basically said, oh wow, what a genius, how clever you are, you predicted the market fall and so forth, how excellent, how you're a genius. Well, yeah, look, it might be true, I'm a bit of a genius, I'm pretty clever, I'm also very handsome, and I'm also quite manly, so these are all facts. But look, no, I didn't predict this fall in the market. It just so happens that when I did put out the podcast, within the next day or so, and I did mention the fact that one of the key characteristics of a crisis is going to be a share market fall, but I didn't obviously expect it to happen the next day. In fact, that market fall that occurred the next day, that was a result of issues occurring in America, not really Australia, not really in Australia. So whilst I do thank you for the compliments and telling me, what a great predictor I am of share market declines, well, I'm not. But what it does show you is how quickly things can change, and regardless of the naysayers who think, oh yeah, everything's great, all these people, doomsday people, markets don't fall by such an amount in such a short period of time if if everything is great. There are fundamental issues, there are fundamental problems, there are many of them. I'm not going to go into detail here because it's not important. I know that many of you look at financial analysis channels, economic forecast channels, and you've heard what you need to know about the problems that we have in the financial sector. You've heard it 1,000 times. I don't want to be another channel that's just going to regurgitate the same stuff. I want to give you practical advice. practical advice. I don't want to keep saying, look, this is a problem, this has been a fraud, the Federal Reserve, fiat currency, gold and silver, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff, banksters, the elite, whatever. You've heard it before. I know about it. I'm just basically here to say, okay, guys, this is what we need to do. This is what's going to happen, and these are the strategies that we need to implement. That's basically what this channel is about. Which is the other thing that I also want to clarify, and this came up in the conversations I've had with people. I'm a business consultant. I'm not a financial advisor. Whilst I have considerable experience in the financial area, I know a lot about economics. I'm not a certified financial advisor. I can't tell you where you need to plant your money, which fund, what sort of returns to expect, because I'm just not familiar with that. That's what a financial advisor does. A financial advisor first has a look, speaks to you, assesses your position, talks to you about your goals and objectives, and basically then outlines the different options available for you, the different types of funds, where you should allocate them, how you should allocate them, what the characteristics of these funds are, and so forth. Now, I'm not familiar with the different funds, okay? What I can tell you is I can tell you about the existence of funds, I can tell you about the existence of the share market, I can tell you about the existence of many different asset classes out there where you can invest, but I'm not authorized to give you financial advice. So just bear that in mind. Now, the other very important thing is that, this channel is a business channel. It's basically for people who want to get into business, who already are in business, and the focus there is on business people, on business owners, on business-related aspects. But it seems on the feedback and on the listener profile and on the subscriptions which I've had, which I didn't expect in such a short period of time, that there are a lot of you who may not be involved in business, but you are interested in economics, in potential crises, into protecting yourself. And that's fantastic, and that's great, okay? So what that actually ended up doing is for me to readjusting the way that I'm going to present the information, and in particular, the suggestions and ideas and the strategies. What initially I wanted to do, I wanted to pack all of them for business, not for, for normal people, for business owners. I want to pack them into the one podcast. I'm not going to do that. Because I just don't think it's going to be appropriate. I don't think you'll get the value. The people who aren't in business will not get the value. So I'm going to now split the ideas and suggestions into two. There's going to be a podcast 4.1 and there's going to be a podcast 4.2. So effectively, part 4 is going to be about the ideas and suggestions and strategies. And I've already got the information prepared for you, so I don't think it's going to take ages. The reason why it's taken ages to get this podcast up and running so far is because of the feedback that I've been having over the week. That I've been reading the comments, people have been contacting me in a panic and so forth. Look, don't panic. There's nothing to panic about. Don't worry about the share market at the moment. I believe that probably during the week, the next week, the market should rise a little bit. It's just a bit of a correction, but it's nothing compared to what I believe is going to occur in the future. But it does show you how quickly things can turn around, and also it'd be interesting for you to look at the initial pricing I gave you about the ASX, the major 4 banks, and just have a look at their prices now after a week of market falls, basically. So that's it. And the other thing also I will be discussing, which initially I didn't expect to discuss, is gold and silver. Okay, there's a few people who've been interested in gold and silver. Once again, I know about gold and silver. I have gold and silver myself, so that's an area that I want to discuss, and that's an area that I didn't even consider discussing beforehand, before I did this podcast. So look, I do apologize that this isn't the podcast that you've been expecting, but like I said to you, as a business consultant, as a business strategist, I'm all about strategies and contingencies, and about absorbing and utilizing new information. Over the past week, the feedback I've gotten has exceeded my expectations, from negative, from 4 negatives up to all these likes, and literally hundreds of people watching, and people contacting me and calling me. I mean, this is really, really great. I didn't expect it. Fantastic. All that means is I've just readjusted my strategy, my podcast strategy, and I'm going to try to fit the future podcasts and the future ideas and suggestions for what you guys are actually looking for. So that is the good news. So thank you for your patience, and please don't kill me with the dislikes, because I'm, like I said, I'm not, I'm not trying to screw anyone over here. I'm actually just trying to make it a little bit better than I had expected beforehand. So yeah, yeah, and and the other thing is, the other good thing is, I will be talking about put options as well, and I'll be giving specific examples just to show you, because I know that not many people are familiar with put options, but I will show you what sort of an impact the last week of share market falls have had on the price of put options, which is one very, very important tool for you to protect yourself during a falling market. So thank you, and I will be speaking to you very, very soon.